Hello friends, and not yet friends. Welcome back to Mary's Test Kitchen, where we're diving right into these easy vegan gingerbread cookies. They're so delicious with warming spices, a bit tender on the inside with crisp, chewy edges when they're fresh out of the oven, and with super simple decorator's icing for all your fun designs. You're gonna love them. As always, the printable recipe is linked in the description box with notes to make these the most perfect cookies for you. And for more easy vegan cookie ideas, I've got a whole playlist linked in the description and in the cards. Let's start by sifting together the dry ingredients. As always, I'm measuring out the flour by weight. But unlike always, I won't harp on you to get a kitchen scale. If you just use the fluff, scoop, and level method and maybe get an extra little bit of flour in there, it'll be fine. This recipe is pretty forgiving. After the flour, add baking powder, and this will give the gingerbread cookies just a tiny bit of lift, so they have a nice tender texture on the inside. Then come the spices. I love ginger, so I'm using a whole tablespoon. Then cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. Confession time, these spices are a year old, so if yours are fresher, you might do with a little less than what I'm using. I just don't use a lot of cloves and nutmeg outside of the holiday baking season. What about you? I don't know why, but I find sifting flour just really fun. But what it does is it helps get rid of any lumps that might be in your flour or your year-old spices. That's it for the dry ingredients. Now for the wet. To bind the cookies, you'll need a vegan egg alternative. Today I'm using aquafaba. That's the thick liquid from a can of chickpeas or white beans, or you can make it yourself by cooking your own chickpeas or white beans. You can also use ground flax or chia with water to make flax egg or chia egg. See the printable recipe for those measurements. But if you're using aquafaba like I am, measure out 6 tablespoons. This is when I realized my mistake. Normally I'd beat the sugar and vegan butter together first. It makes everything easier to combine afterwards, but I already have the aquafaba in the big bowl and I don't really want to wash another bowl, so... Like I said, this recipe is pretty forgiving. I'm mixing this in my stand mixer, but if you're feeling like an arm workout, you can totally do this by hand, or you can use an electric handheld mixer. Next up, molasses. Prep your measuring cup with your vegan butter wrapper. A bit of grease will help that molasses come out cleaner, and you can use this tip for measuring out any kind of syrups. I'm using fancy molasses, which will give these gingerbread cookies that classic gingerbread cookie flavor. If you're not a big fan of the flavor of molasses, or you want to make something a little bit milder tasting, you can do half molasses and half corn syrup, or all corn syrup. These are your vegan gingerbread cookies, and there are no rules. But don't forget the vanilla extract. Now add the dry ingredients to the wet and stir to combine. Finally, you should have a smooth, soft, sticky dough. It's almost impossible to roll out like this, so wrap it up in plastic wrap and let it chill completely in the fridge. If you're in a hurry, wrap them in 2 or more divisions so they can chill through quickly in the coldest part of your fridge for a couple hours. But if you have the time, just 1 ball is good and leave it in the fridge overnight, or you can leave this in there for up to 3 days in advance of your baking day. When the dough is good and chilled through, it'll still be pliable. No need to let it rest, get to work right away. Take out anything extra that's in your oven now, move a rack to the middle position, and preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Dust your clean work surface generously with flour before plopping on your dough. I'm just working with half the dough because I don't have that much space here and it's just easier this way. The rest can go back in the fridge. Dust the top of the dough with flour as well and your rolling pin, or in my case, my trusty beer bottle rolling pin that's been with me since the beginning of this channel. While I'm here feeling nostalgic, I'd like to give a special thank you to everyone who's been with me since that time. I see you in the comments sometimes still, and it's just so nice to know we've been on this journey all these years together. Add flour if you need to. We'll dust off any excess later. And get that dough down to about 1/4 inch thick, as even as you can get it. I think mine's just a little bit thinner than that today, but like I said, this recipe is flexible. Now you can select your gingerbread cookie cutters. I got this generic one and then these two with bites taken off the head already. I just love them, they're so adorable. Anyways, dust them with flour and get to cutting. Lay out the cookie shapes onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. You can bake the first sheet now if your oven's preheated already. 8 minutes for soft cookies that are nice and chewy around the edges, or 10 minutes for crunchier cookies. Well, it depends on your oven, of course. Everyone's a little different, just like people. Ball up the extra dough, and I'll use the same piece of plastic to wrap it up. This can chill in the fridge while we work on the second half. These were done just as the oven timer went off. Perfect. Let these sit on the baking sheet for a couple of minutes just to firm up gently before transferring them to a cooling rack. Then keep going until all your dough is used up. You'll want to let these cool completely before decorating them. We'll do a simple icing today, starting with 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract and a tablespoon of soy milk or your choice of plant-based milk. A tablespoon of corn syrup helps to make the icing really smooth and pipeable. Stir that all together. Then you can add 1½ cups of icing sugar. Stir that until you cannot stir anymore. We're going to need a little bit more liquid today, so I'm going in with a teaspoon of soy milk. It's easy to add a bit too much, so go easy. Just 1 more teaspoon of soy milk and we'll have the perfect decorator's icing. Transfer the icing to a piping bag with a thin tip, or if you cannot find your tips, just reinforce the corner with packing tape like I did. Snip off the end, and away you go. Make sure the top of the bag is secure and apply even pressure for a steady flow. Don't be discouraged if your first gingerbread people look like a toddler made it. I find it helps to sketch out what you want to do on paper first. Then find it way too complicated and give up opting for a simpler design. You'll have plenty of icing left over, so while you're endlessly decorating, you can think of other cookies you might want to make and decorate this season. Let me know what your ideas are. Maybe I need some ideas myself. You might wonder, why the heck I made the recipe for the icing so generous and isn't it just a waste of ingredients? To which I say, fair enough, but it is easier to handle this amount than trying to make smaller amounts. Before you know it, you'll have an army of gingerbread people ready to take Santa's territory to the South Pole. Let them sit out for about an hour so the icing can completely harden, though since it's super dry in Alberta, it might take longer where you are. And you can eat the uglier ones first before packing away the rest for your friends, your family, or in my case, your boyfriend's coworkers, because I need most of the batch out of my kitchen immediately. Otherwise, I'll eat them all, and I don't really want to do that because I need to save room for the cinnamon rolls I'm planning to bake up next. And that's it. These cookies, like most homemade cookies, are best eaten in a couple of days, but they will store up to 2 weeks pretty well. Keep in mind they lose their crispness after you seal them in a bag for a while. But after that, a couple of weeks, they'll stay edible, but you can probably tell they're a couple weeks old. And you would never let that happen on your watch, would ya? Thanks so much for watching, my friends. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe for more easy vegan recipes. Don't forget to go to the blog post, which has more details, just in case you are, I guess, new to cookie making and you need a little more detail. Special thanks to my channel members who are helping to support this channel on a monthly basis. You know who you are, and I appreciate you. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Bye for now.